Welcome back to RetroWheelsVault, where horsepower never dies. If you're noticing deja vu, no, you're not trapped in a time loop. We're just giving some of these cars the love it deserves. Again, due to a little copyright hiccup with original videos, because even legends like this car can't escape the fine print, we're back with a fresh, full throttle revisit. New visuals, same raw muscle, and just as much growl as before. Today we're diving headfirst into the 1966 Pontiac GTO. The car that didn't just kickstart the muscle car era, it drop-kicked it into overdrive. With its wide-shoulder stance, rumbling V8, and a name that sounds like it should come with its own theme music, the GTO wasn't just a car, it was a middle finger to moderation. This beast had style, speed, and street cred oozing from every chrome trim panel, and we're unlocking every detail, from its powerhouse engine to the ride that turned straightaways into drag strips. Another classic unlocked, another beast revived, because modern cars forgot what muscle means. Strap in, hit that like button, and let's roar into the past. This is the 66 GTO like you've never seen it before.
Now here's a juicy little slice of GTO legend. The ultra-rare, near-mythical XS Ram Air package. Think of it as the factory secret hot sauce. Spicier, punchier, and reserved for those in the know. Pontiac, not one to leave horsepower on the table, decided to offer a version of the GTO with a hotter camshaft and functional hood scoop that didn't just look cool, it actually snorted air like a linebacker doing wind sprints. Dubbed the XS Ram Air package, the setup gave the 389 engine a bit more bite, improving breathing and performance. But here's a twist. Only a handful were ever made off the production line, about 190. We're talking Bigfoot level rarity. You are more likely to find Elvis flipping burgers at your local diner than spot one of these XS equipped beasts on the street. Why so rare? Some say Pontiac didn't push it hard enough. Others say it was just too wild for the average Sunday driver. Either way, if you see one today, grab your camera and maybe a defibrillator because your heart's about to skip a gear. It's one of those, if you know, muscle car mysteries. An extra snarl hidden beneath the hood of a legend.
Let's talk design and construction, because the 1966 Pontiac GTO didn't just show up to the muscle car party. It started in like it owned the joint. And this was the first year the GTO dropped the training wheels and stood on its own, no longer just an option package on the Le Mans. It was like that side character in a movie who suddenly gets a spin-off and somehow becomes a star everyone remembers. The 66 GTO came dressed to kill with a brand new Coke bottle body, curvier than a back road in Appalachia and just as fun to drive. The dual grills up front looked like they were ready to bite, and the louver taillights were a masterclass in stylish aggression. Chrome trim ran along the body like a razor-sharp tuxedo accent. Clean, confident, and just cocky enough. Built on GM's A-body platform, it shared bones with the Chevelle and Skylark, but the GTO made those bones flex. The steel frame gave it the durability of a street brawler and the presence of a heavyweight champ. This wasn't delicate Italian design. It was Detroit iron, hammered into something beautiful. In short, the GTO didn't just look fast standing still. It looked like it dared you to try and catch it.
Now let's open the hood and unleash the beast, because the 1966 GTO wasn't just built to cruise, it was built to crush. Under that aggressively scooped hood sat a 389 cubic inch V8 that sounded like it smoked cigars and yelled at its neighbors. Standard? 335 horsepower. But if you want to get serious, and who didn't, you check the box for the tri-power setup. 3 snarling 2-barrel carburetors feeding 360 horsepower of unfiltered American fury. This engine didn't purr, it thundered. It had enough torque to pull stumps, launch you into orbit, or simply roast tires on the local sheriff raised an eyebrow. It was the kind of motor that didn't just start a race, it finished it, usually a few car lengths ahead. Pontiac didn't mess around. They tuned this V8 with a high lift cam, solid lifters, and big attitude. And while modern engines hide behind plastic covers and whisper through turbochargers, the GTO's 389 was honest, loud, and ready to fight anyone who questioned its dominance. Stomped the gas and the GTO didn't ask questions. It just delivered a burnout, a smile, and maybe a little bit of whiplash. This wasn't just engine performance, it was muscle car gospel preached through pipes and pistons. Now let's dive into the drivetrain and transmission, because once that 389 roared to life, you need the right gears to handle all that fury without turning your rear end into a smoking crater. Standing issue? A 3-speed manual, simple, rugged, and dependable, like the guy who never says much but gets the job done. It wasn't fancy, but it didn't have to be. If you wanted something with a bit more snap, you upgraded to the real stars of the show, the Muncie 4-speeds. The M20 gave you wide ratio gearing, great for street brawls and stoplight smackdowns. The M21, on the other hand, was the close ratio option, meant for when you were dead serious about speed and didn't mind shifting like your life depended on it. And for the folks who preferred a smoother ride, or perhaps just wanted to keep one hand on their burger, there was a 2-speed Powerglide automatic. It wasn't exactly a performance darling, but it shifted smooth and let the torque do the talking. Rear-wheel drive, of course, because front-wheel drive in a muscle car is like putting a tutu on a linebacker. The 66 GTO's drivetrain wasn't built for compromise, it was built to launch, to haul, and to win. Now let's talk chassis and suspension, because all that power's no good if the car handles like a drunken shopping cart. Luckily, the 66 GTO knew how to hold its ground. Built on GM's A-body platform, it had the backbone of a street fighter, strong, straightforward, and unafraid to throw down on a twisty back road. Up front, it sported an independent suspension with coil springs and unequal length A-arms. Fancy talk for it didn't bounce like a trampoline. And back, it used a solid rear axle with coil springs, which wasn't exactly race car tech, but it got the job done like a tough-as-nails factory foreman. No nonsense, all grip. Standard shocks kept things civil, but opt for the ride and handling package, and suddenly the GTO stiffened up like it had something to prove. A corner flatter, rode firmer, and let you feel the road, sometimes a little too well. It wasn't built for autocross. It was built for power slides and drag strips, with enough stability to keep you between the lines and just enough body roll to remind you you're not in a Ferrari. The 66 GTO handled like it looked. Mean, muscular, and ready to rumble. Just don't expect it to tiptoe. Slide into the interior of the 66 GTO and you're greeted with a cockpit that's more brawler than butler. It didn't need diamond stitching or massaging seats. This was a driver's car, plain and simple, dressed in vinyl and attitude. Bucket seats came standard, hugging you just enough to keep you steady when you punched the throttle and prayed the rear end tires stayed friendly. The dashboard was a no-nonsense slab of gauges, switches, and serious-looking speedometer, because nothing says performance like a needle that climbs like a rocket launch. You could even option a rally gauge cluster with a tachometer front and center, perfect for watching your revs climb like the national debt. Pontiac threw in some flash with wood grain trim on the dash and console, adding a bit of class to all that sass. And for those who liked their music loud when the engine wasn't doing the singing, an AM radio came standard. Though, let's be honest, most folks were more interested in the rumble coming from the dual exhaust than whatever was on the charts. It wasn't luxury, it was muscle with manners. A little vinyl, a little attitude, and just enough tech to remind you this beast had brains behind the brawn. At the back end of the 66 GTO lived the unsung hero, the rear differential. Standard setup gave you an open diff, perfect for stylish one-tire fire shows. But opt for the safe T-Track limited slip, otherwise known as the Detroit True Track, and suddenly both wheels got the invite to the burnout party. Gear ratios ranged from mellow cruisers or to highway terrors, depending on how much rubber you felt like donating to the pavement. It wasn't high-tech wizardry, it was old-school Detroit logic. Plant the power, spin the tires, and let physics sort out the rest. Simple, brutal, effective, like a sledgehammer with just enough finesse. Let's size up the 1966 GTO, because this wasn't some featherweight sports coupe. This was a full-grown street predator in sheet metal form. Measuring 206.4 inches long, the GTO had the length of a city bus. Okay, maybe a small one, but it had the attitude of a barroom bouncer who just got cut off. At 74.4 inches wide, it practically elbowed everything else out of the lane, and at 53.2 inches tall, it had that low, lean profile that screamed speed even while parked. The 115-inch wheelbase helped give it a planted, confident stance. It wasn't twitchy or nervous, just long enough to cruise like a king, but short enough to still feel agile when the road curved. And then there's the curb weight. A solid 3,470 pounds of Detroit steel, muscle, and attitude. Not exactly lightweight, but when you're packing a 389 V8 under the hood, who cares? It carried its weight like a linebacker in a tailored suit. The 66 GTO had presence, not just in looks, but in sheer physical form. It filled your rearview mirror like a charging bull, and once it was coming, there wasn't much you could do but admire it and move over. The 1966 Pontiac GTO had strengths like a heavyweight boxer with a grudge. First off, raw power. That 389 V8 wasn't just strength, it was a statement. It delivered thunder on command whether you were cruising Main Street or blowing the doors off your buddy Chevelle. Its muscular styling was another win. Curves, chrome, and attitude all wrapped into one gorgeous tire-shredding package. It had presence, performance, and enough charisma to make grown men weak in the knees. Handling? Surprisingly decent, especially with the ride and handling package. Interior? Sporty enough to make you feel like a track star even in traffic. And it was customizable, giving buyers a chance to build a GTO that matched their style, speed, and budget. Now for the weaknesses? Fuel economy was, well, it was laughable. If you cared about miles per gallon, the GTO politely showed you to the door. Handling on rough roads could get floaty, and without power front discs, still optional at the time, stopping all that speed could be more exciting than intended. And that 2-speed Powerglide, let's just say it didn't exactly wring out every last drop of horsepower. Still, flaws and all, the 66 GTO remains a legend. Loud, proud, and gloriously imperfect. And that wraps up our fresh, copyright-friendly cruise through the 1966 Pontiac GTO. A muscle car so iconic even YouTube tried to claim a piece of it. But don't worry, we rebuilt this episode like a factory-restored goat. Tighter, cleaner, and still just as mean. From its beastly 389 V8 to its long, low silhouette that looks like it was born to outrun the cops in a 60s car chase movie, the 66 GTO didn't just set the standard. It burned rubber all over it. It's the kind of car that doesn't ask for attention, it demands it. With a growl that could wake the dead and styling that turns driveways into car shows. So now it's your turn. Is the 66 GTO still the king of the classic muscle cars, or is there another legend that you think deserves the crown? Drop your take in the comments below. We love hearing from fellow horsepower junkies. And if you enjoyed this revamped ride through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss another blast from the golden age of American muscle. Because let's admit it, modern cars forgot what muscle means. Keep it loud, keep it classic, and we'll see you in the next one.